What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. You can only see my hands, which means it's time for another installment of Micro Brand Monday. Now, guys, you already know my stance on homage watches. I don't really need to harp on it any further. I don't think that most homages out there are super duper original. I think I appreciate more original designs over, the general homage watch. But there's no two ways about it. The watch we took a look at last week, that Spinnaker Tessé Millimetri, or however you want to pronounce it. It's that Spinnaker that costs over $1,300. There was nothing offensive about it except, maybe the price tag. It also wasn't super duper original because, again, we have to recognize it as kind of a general Rolex homage. And again, I don't want to harp on it any further. However, if we're going to take a look at a Rolex homage during Micro Brand Monday, it only makes sense to take a look at a Patek Philippe homage. Or maybe it's an AP Royal Oak homage. I don't know. It could be both, but it's in the box. It is 2:26 p.m. Let's get down to business. Okie dokie, so I was sent a watch and the package is coming from Huntington Beach, so that's fairly local to me here in Los Angeles. However, Huntington Beach is in Orange County, so not too far away. Ooh, this knife is sharp. This is my Gerber flat iron. For those of you wondering, I will leave an affiliate link in the description below, but this is kind of my everyday carry right now. All right, so what could this be? How do I open this without absolutely mangling the package right now? It's gonna have to happen. There. Some brute strength did it. Okay, what is this? No box, no watch roll. We have a letter? Let's see. Wow, check this out. Spec sheet. Like, the company actually sent me a legitimate spec sheet, not just a link to click. I love that. I think more companies, if you're listening, you should do that. Really helps the reviewers out instead of saying, click this link. It's nice to have a tangible spec sheet for these kind of first impression reviews. So I don't know if you saw the name that was on the header of that note, but it is from a company, I guess based in California, known as DUMOREAU. Sounds very, very posh. But what does the watch look like? I'm gonna very gingerly cut that tape so that we don't slice into the watch. There we go, we got it. Okie dokie. You can already see what this is an homage of. All right, so commenting really does help the videos on my channel out a bunch. On any YouTube videos, the more you comment, the more it helps me out in the algorithm. So in the comment section, please, what does this look more like? An AP Royal Oak or a Patek Nautilus? I'm kind of seeing more of a Nautilus bezel shape, and the texturing pattern could be either. It could be Patek Philippe, it could be AP. However, the index is very, very much Patek Nautilus. Man, but the crown and the bracelet a little bit more AP Royal Oak. But leave me a comment, which one do you think this more represents as far as, the design language? Leave me that comment. All right, so without further ado, this is my first time looking at a DUMOREAU DM01. Now, all over the spec sheet they sent, they are wanting me to understand this is a prototype, okay? So this has been handled by a multitude of people, but perhaps, I guess the most disappointing thing is this doesn't have the clasp. So they're still working on the clasp, I guess. So on their review piece, this does not have the clasp on it, so I unfortunately cannot even wear the watch. However, we do have some images of what the clasp will look like. I think it's going to be a butterfly clasp. We'll put some footage or some pictures in here as I talk. So that's kind of a bummer. I would have liked to have it on the wrist. I will lay it on the wrist, but of course it's going to be very different than being able to, you know, play with the clasp and actually affix it to my wrist. But let's go over the spec sheet. So this DUMOREAU DM01 has a sapphire crystal. It does use Superluminova BGW9. It has a threaded crown with a 100 meter water resistance rating, so it does seem to be, you know, more of a usable kind of sleek sports watch. It does have a Japanese automatic Miyota 9039. Again, that is, I believe, one of their premium Miyota movements. 24 joules and a 28,800 BPH sweep. Now, one thing that was kind of confusing is I went to DUMOREAU's Kickstarter when they asked me to do a review, because, you know, I like paying attention, being cognizant of what these companies are actually offering. And the first thing that I saw, it said DUMOREAU DM01 American automatic. But this uses a Japanese movement. Now, again, I'm very wary about using like regions as marketing tools. You know, like I think people get very caught up on the whole Swiss made versus, you know, Japanese made. What does Swiss made even mean? What does Japan made even mean? I know companies like Shinola got in trouble with the Federal Trade Commission over saying that they were like Detroit made or American made, and then even companies like Weiss got a slap on the wrist from the FTC over their branding about like where their things are produced. So again, I guess this is, they say that this is assembled in California. So that's very nice. There's some business going on here in California. But again, it's using components that are not from the US. So take that as you will. I guess they market it as a American automatic watch on their Kickstarter, but of course this uses Japanese and Asian components, and Superluminova, I believe, is Swiss. But yeah, so there you have it. I think the first thing that strikes me about this watch is not only the fact that, yes, it is clearly an homage, but it's not such a spitting image of an AP Royal Oak, like, you know, maybe that Maurice Lacroix, or Maurice Lacroix, I guess we'll pronounce it. The Aiken, I think, is the model name, but that is like an almost a replica, right? That looks exactly like an AP Royal Oak. This has a little bit different design cues going on, and it's a bit more of an amalgamation of a Nautilus, maybe even an Aquanaut mixed with an AP Royal Oak. So we have to acknowledge that. Now, some of you guys will absolutely love the way this looks and you won't care that it's an homage, and that's perfectly fine. This watch will definitely be for you. But yeah, I think the first thing that stood out to me, aside from the fact it's an homage, is this really nice texturing on the dial. I guess as it plays with the light, it's a bit kind of green. You know, let's get up close and really scrutinize that dial texturing. So here we're kind of honing in towards the lower half of the dial, towards that 6 o'clock index, and I'm happy to say this watch doesn't have a paragraph of text on the dial. Really the only thing on the lower half of the dial is just a simple automatic signage there. Even for this being a prototype, everything actually seems to be pretty clean on this watch. I'm happy to say that the font inking doesn't look super fuzzy or blurry or you know, like smudged. I don't think that's acceptable for any watch that you're sending out for review. But let's go ahead and take a look at the DUMOREAU font. DUMOREAU. I don't know what that means. Is it simply a name, or someone help me? Is it, maybe it's even a place in California? I have no idea. But yeah, someone educate me. DUMOREAU sounds very high-end, sounds very posh, sounds very European. Anything with EAU at the end of it. It's not DUMOREAU, it's not DUMOREAU, it's DUMOREAU. Hello? Get some culture in you, would ya? No, but seriously, I think that they just, less is more in this case. They didn't decide to put DUMOREAU and then, you know, a logo. They just want the font DUMOREAU. Very nice. How many times can I say DUMOREAU in this episode without people complaining that I'm saying it wrong? DUMOREAU, 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 DUMOREAU. Okie dokie, we can focus in here on the spindle and the handset. We can see very sharp finishing on the handset. And again, for being a prototype, I'm actually pretty impressed because we've gotten some production pieces here on the channel for Microbrand Monday, and the handsets have been kind of burred or even some tool marks being shown. But this, very clean, very sharp, and we can see top half of the handset very, very kind of almost glowing, playing with the light, and then very nice shadow coming from the lower edge of each hand. So I like to see them sharp, I like to see them angled, and finished pretty nicely, especially, you know, when you consider this is an unfinished prototype. So we already mentioned this watch is powered by a Japanese Miyota premium line automatic movement, and it should have a threaded crown with a 100-meter water resistance rating. Let's go ahead and test that out. So there's no knurling or serrations on the crown. You get your grip by it. Get a grip. You're gonna actually get grip simply by the fact that it is a rectangular or squared off crown. I could already kind of feel my fingertips sliding though, so I would prefer some actual knurling on there. I think it would be, you know, much easier to use for the end user, but let's go ahead and see if it, yep, it is hacking. Crown is in its final position. Let's push back in. And I can feel some resistance there, so it is hand wind. You do have to get used to the fact that it is a squared off crown, so you can kind of feel it clunking around. Yeah, I would prefer a round crown with, again, knurling or some serrations there, but that's just me. And I understand they got that design cue, again, from the watches that this is inspired by. And we can get very close to this case. We can see a signed crown, DUMOREAU, and we can see that there are some kind of speed cuts in the side of this watch's case. We can see a very long cut on the right side of the watch's case. I think what's very interesting to me right now is the dual finishing. So we can see on the flat face of this bezel, we can obviously see a few scratches, but this is a prototype media piece, but we also see some grains of the brushed finishing. Same with the flat face of the lugs. But over on the sides, we see a nice mirrored polished finish, and I'm kind of a sucker for dual finishing. Now, the only downside to this is that it is an absolute fingerprint magnet, so you gotta be aware of that. But all in all, this watch does play with the light quite nicely. It's not really fumé, but we can see in certain light it gets darker, and in other angles it kind of glows a little bit. Not really sunburst, because again, that dial texturing masks it a bit, but all in all, very nice deep green. I'm a fan of that. Uh-oh, and we can see the case back is not screwed down, but it is screwed in. So the difference is a screw down case back would be actually where the case back threads into the case itself, and you know, a case back that's screwed in, well, that's just screwed. No, I'm just kidding. But literally the case back is affixed with 4 screws. Let's go ahead and scrutinize these screw heads, because I always say if there are screw heads showing on the watch, they need to be finished. Now, we do have to consider this is an unfinished prototype, but still, I mean, it's a time teller review. We gotta take a look. Okie dokie, first screw head. Actually looks pretty dang good. Let's move to the next one. Honestly impressive. I thought that these would be kind of mangled, it being a pre-production prototype. Pfft. Wow, this might seem kind of silly, guys, but it's actually really, really impressive, because I've seen many a production piece that has absolutely thrashed screw heads. So the fact that their pre-production prototype looks better than some production watches, good job, DUMOREAU. So now it is time to break out the digital calipers and measure the dang thing. Let's go ahead and see. At the widest point, excluding the crowns, and again, because of this whole case design, it does not have any crown guards. 38.6 millimeters across. Now let's see, lug to lug. We'll do this as easily as possible because it does have an integrated bracelet. 46.6 millimeters. And then for the thickness, this does seem like a fairly thin watch actually. Yeah, 9.5 millimeters thin. So for an automatic, that's actually quite impressive. So again, I wish I could close the watch on my wrist, but we're gonna have to just kind of settle for laying it on the wrist for now. All right, here we are with the DUMOREAU DM01 bracelet. Very, very sharp, sleek. You can see it plays with the light quite nicely. This is actually my first time wearing like a Nautilus Royal Oak homage. You can see the flat bezel plays with the light, the dial also playing with the light quite nicely. Everything actually, you know, it feels pretty light on the wrist. It's not a hunk of metal, and that's kind of a concern when we're talking about these integrated bracelet watches. I think I'd love to see a variant that has maybe a strap option. Again, I'm not the hugest fan of integrated bracelets because they limit the fun you can have with a watch, right? Part of the fun, like for instance, here is my SSC 081. It's just on the desk right now. You can see I have this on a man cave leather rally strap, but I could put this on a Cordura strap, I could put this on a NATO strap, I could put this on a bracelet, I could put this on a multitude of different kinds of straps and bracelets, and that's kind of the fun about wearing a watch. You can breathe new life into it depending on how you feel and what you want to wear it with. Whereas when you have a watch with an integrated bracelet system, you just, you know, you don't have all those options. So that's just kind of my little rant for today. But all in all, from what I can experience right now, it wears perfectly fine on the wrist, although I'm not closing it on the wrist because, well, we don't have a clasp. All right, guys, so there's one last thing to do before we go over the conclusion of this DUMOREAU DM01, and that's the lume test. Oh yeah, baby. All right, let's check it out. I can see it's already glowing, that BGW9, without me having to do anything, but I have my UV torch. Shine that up a bit. Ooh, not bad at all. Now, what I'm noticing, the more I review watches, forgive me, I've only been doing it for like 3 years. The blue toned lumes do not glow as vibrantly as, say, a green. But, you know, my Oris Big Crown Pro Pilot, that has, I believe, BGW9, and it's blue, and it's not great. It is not great at all. So this is much better than my Oris. So good job. Yeah, by far not the worst. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. All right, guys, so after spending an afternoon with this DUMOREAU DM01, what do I think? Well, let's talk about the price. This is coming in at the Kickstarter price of $395 US. Apparently, it's limited to 100 pieces within like each dial variant. I guess there's 4 dial variants. We have like the green dial here. So there's a few things that I will complain about. Number one, it's an homage. I don't think it's super duper original. That's the case. I think DUMOREAU knows that I feel that way. My viewers absolutely know I feel that way. The next thing I'll complain about is, you know, okay, limited, like, I don't really care the fact that it's a limited edition, limited quantities, whatever. I don't think that adds any inherent value there. But here's where I do think it adds some interesting value. The movement, right? Really good Miyota movement. This isn't one of the bottom of the barrel Miyota movements. You're getting a high beat sweep, kind of your entryway to high beat frequencies, 28,800 BPH. You're getting a sapphire crystal. You're getting a threaded crown with a 100 meter water resistance rating. You're getting some all in all very nice finishing. Again, if this is a prototype and it's finished as nicely as it is, I have very high hopes for the production pieces. So all in all, you're getting a very sleek, sharp, interesting watch that has a very luxurious aesthetic for not the huge price tag that you would get, you know, with an AP Royal Oak or a Patek Nautilus. So if you're okay with wearing an homage and you want something close to that instead of wearing a replica, yeah, for well under $500, you can get a very nice package here with this DUMOREAU DM01. Again, we do have to consider the fact that I was not able to wear the watch with its clasp, and we have to consider that this is a prototype that I'm looking at today. But all in all, I think that, you know, the $395 price point, this is a whole lot of watch, but I'd love to hear what you guys think, so leave me that comment and let me know. All right, guys, special thanks to all my viewers, my channel members, my regulars, and my newcomers. What is a channel without a viewer? So you guys make it all possible. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And special thanks to DUMOREAU, you know, California, local company, helping out another California company, which would be my channel. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode and making it possible. Again, Microbrand Monday has been incredibly successful, and we can't do it with the help of these watchmakers sending us their products. And I don't know about you guys, I've had a whole lot of fun learning about watchmakers that I wouldn't have otherwise had the privilege of learning about. So getting hands-on with these kind of obscure watches, very, very fun. So special thanks to them, and it takes a whole lot of guts for me to scrutinize their watches. It shows me that these watchmakers really do stand behind their products. So yeah, good job, DUMOREAU. And yeah, guys, whole bunch of ways to support the channel. You can check out my personal website, www.thetimetellershop.com. You can check out all the affiliate links. That'll really help me when you shop using those. And yeah, you can join the channel memberships. You know, easily, the easiest way to support me is just keep doing what you're doing and watching the content when we upload it. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon so you get notified when we upload. And yeah, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.